Morning, welcome to the shed. So this morning I've got a product review and a how-to guide. So a few weeks ago when I started trying to sharpen these plane blades, I realised that I needed a honing guide because I couldn't get it the right angle. I didn't know what I was doing. So I bought one of these. This cost £6 from eBay or Amazon, I can't remember which one, and it basically clamps the blade in position. You have to set the angle manually, and I built myself a little gauge, downloaded a protractor off the internet and made myself a gauge, and I basically was just lining it up, and it worked okay. However, when I started to do my chisels, I couldn't get it to hold square, and if you've seen my previous video where I renovate those 3 chisels, you realise I had some troubles. So I bought this. This is a Veritas Honing guide. It's good quality, heavy duty metal, comes with a lovely little gauge. I'll show you how it works in a moment. So yeah, basically the idea of this video is just to work out whether it's any good. Spoiler alert, it is. And show you how to use it. Let's start by looking at the constituent parts. So this is the angle gauge, for want of a better word, which allows you to set the different angles. So on the main body of the unit itself, we've got the roller at the bottom, which obviously it sits on and rolls across. We've got a clamping mechanism where the blade goes, and then we have got a selector switch here, which just adjusts the angle of the blade when it's set into the clamp. We've also got a little turn switch here, which I'll talk about in a moment. Okay, so the way it works is this. For setting it up, you slide this unit onto here. So you have to line this small indentation up with the width of your blade. It's only approximate, but it just means that the blade will be mounted in the centre of the clamp. So say we've got a 2-inch blade, we just set that for 2 inches, and we're set. We then decide what angle we want to go for. So the standard angles are 15, 20, 25, 30, 35 and 40, and that corresponds to the yellow on here. Now you can go for some extra special angles, high angles and lower angles. There is some overlap between them, obviously, and you can do that by changing the sort of base angle of the unit, of the main unit. I don't suppose I'll ever need to do that, so I'm basically going for the middle part of the gauge, which is the standard angles. Okay, so obviously you've seen the main body of the unit. What happens here is that you clamp between here your blade, and you set it up against this marker that you've set on the other side. So we're going to do that now. Put that there for a moment. Now I don't know if you remember, but I wasn't particularly happy when I rebuilt this plane here, which is a Bailey 4.5. I wasn't particularly happy with the way that the sharpening worked. So we're going to use this as our little demo. So this blade, let me just get my ruler, is 2.25 inches wide. So we can set this to 2.25, which is about there. It'll go a little bit wider than that, but that's pretty much the maximum. Let's just take that off. Blade's starting to get near to the end of its life. It's getting close to the edge. Okay, so we're going to put an angle on this of 30 degrees. Now I think I did it at 40. I was misinformed, and then we will put a micro bevel on it as well. Okay, so we're going to start by doing we'll start by pushing this into the mount. So basically you push the blade up against this stop, and gently, you need to do it individually each side a little bit at a time. So just bring it up tight, tighter, tighter and tighter. Okay, that should now clamp it square against this guide here. Now that was a problem I was having with my cheap guide, which I can show you in a moment, and that I couldn't get it square. It just wouldn't clamp it because it was a side clamp. I couldn't get it to clamp it square, and that's why I spent the money on this one. Okay, so that should now be set in there square, and it should be at exactly 30 degrees when I set it like so. Okay, so what I'm going to do is use a bit of emery cloth. This is quite a harsh grind at first, but I do need to take off a bit there because that one is set, I believe, at 40 degrees, although that looks about 30. Maybe it was 30. I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to spend a bit of time just taking that back to a straight edge, a square straight edge. It isn't actually too bad, this one. And then we'll use some finer paper on the flat surface to put a proper edge on it. So the correct way to hold this is just to put your fingers lightly on the back of the roller and apply pressure on the blade itself, not on the actual unit. That's the correct way. So I do need to just anchor my emery cloth slightly. I'm not going to wet it at this point, because this is emery cloth, so it's a bit harsh. I need to find a better method of doing this, but for the moment I'll just use a bit of tape. I'm struggling to see where that's actually taking that off, so I'm just going to use the old pen trick just to mark it to see where it is actually coming off. Actually, I think I can see it now. So I was expecting it to start cutting along this part of the blade, so maybe the angle that I thought I was doing it at earlier wasn't correct. Okay, let's just give it a couple of passes just to see if that will show us. Oh yeah, it is. So it's taking it off at the front here. Okay. So either that wasn't originally straight or square, or I've got this incorrect now. Let's just check that. It's obviously important to have it square. Doesn't look square, but it is. Get an angle on there that will work. Yeah, okay. So the blade's square, my cut wasn't. So we're going to take quite a bit off of that to get it true again. I've only gone and done it, haven't I? Invested in some Japanese water stones. So I've got a 220 grit, a 1000 grit and a 6000 grit. Now I'm going to show you the state of this. Now I can't really tell whether you can see that, but it's not square. I started grinding it on the paper, but in the end I got fed up because I was just too much paper. I keep ripping it, and it actually is more expensive in the long run than investing in a set of decent Japanese stone. So here we go. This is about as wide a blade as I can get on here. This is the 220 grit, the first time I've used it. I think that's working. Still quite a bit of grind here because I've got a curve in the blade here. Okay, I will be back to you when I've done the first 220 grit. So after a lot of grinding on the 220 and a change of blades, because the 4.5 plain blade has got some serious issues, so I went for my number 4 plain blade. So this took me about, I don't know, half an hour to grind the main bevel, and then probably another 5 or 10 minutes to do the micro bevel. But you can see there is a definite shine on there. That's using the 6000. I've also done a little bit of a back, what do they call that, lapping the back of the blade. So what do we think of the unit? Yeah, it's pretty good. It's very heavy, which is good. Really good quality parts. I had a little bit of trouble. I also polished up a chisel as well, sharpened up a chisel, the one I bought this morning, I think it was. And again, took a little while, and it's not so easy to grip that. And you can see that is wedge shaped, so it struggled to grip that. So I might need, there is an adapter for a mortise chisel for this, so maybe that will grip it better. But that moved slightly. So I'd say for chisels, as long as they're sort of an inch, you're all right, but anything thinner than that, you may struggle. So it's expensive, it's good quality. You need to really tighten down the plain blade lock, or the blade lock. Apart from that, I've just used it at 30 degrees, which I'm sure will be fine. In a minute, I'm going to test this blade. And I think, yeah, I would recommend it. It's a good bit of kit. It's worth spending a bit of extra money. Yeah, I mean, you always need to spend as much as you possibly can on this sort of stuff. And, you know, I was buying a pack of paper for £5 or whatever. Doesn't take long to get to 60 quid. Okay, I'm going to take this out, stick it in my plane, and then we'll give it a little test, see how actually sharp it is. I suppose that's the true test. It's definitely going to be better than what I've achieved with me other blades, my other sharpening tools. I will just quickly show you this in action. So the micro bevel switch, which is this thing here, you can see that's got a little notch. That's at 1/4 at the moment. If it's in the 12 o'clock position like so, then that's your set angle. So in this case, that's 30 degrees. Changing the micro bevel setting just gives it another degree or two to give you that extra bit, so you're not sharpening the whole front of the blade. But I think once you've got it straight, and if you carry on using this particular bit of kit, you should be able to keep it straight. There's no reason why not. Okay, I'll just show you what you would do. So 12 o'clock position, grind heavily on here, squirt of water. in the end I was doing this because I was getting bored. And then once you've got a good edge on there, really all that does is squares it up, gets your angle correct, and then you can polish it on the 1000 and the 6000 to get a nice shine on it, although really the only thing that's actually important is the micro bevel. So once you switch into the micro bevel mode, which is that one there, again, why is everything I use shiny and therefore difficult to film? So that's in the quarter pass position. There is another position if you want to get an even steeper micro bevel. So once you've got that, you then, well, you can use a little bit of 220, a little bit of 1000, but most of the work is done on the 6000, and I was doing it like this. Give that a wipe. Also, you shouldn't switch between the stones without cleaning the roller and the blade, because you can transfer particles from one to the other and corrupt your stone. I did forget that a couple of times. And just take off the burr that develops with a little bit of that. One thing I did do a couple of times is start grinding the blade in the wrong setting. So I suppose that's both an advantage and a disadvantage, because you can end up doing the wrong thing. Okay, so that's the final blade after a bit of extra polishing. I will take the blade out, stick it into the plane, and we'll see how it works. I also have got a bit of thick leather which I use as a sort of strop, and some paste on there, some lapping paste. And that will take any burr off, a micro burr as it were. It's a nice rhyme for you. That should be very sharp now. Not as clean as it was. Dirty rag. Okay. Get it in the plane. I didn't realise that I'd been putting this chip breaker too far up here. I had it about 1/4 of an inch, but apparently it should be like a 30-second. I don't know what a 30-second is, but it's close. Tighten that up. Again, I think this is committing a sin doing this, but you've never got a screwdriver handy, have you? I'm not sure what you can see there, but I've set that to take a bit of a shaving just so I can set it laterally. Interestingly, I can see that that blade isn't quite flat, or my plane isn't flat. It's not the plane, it's the blade, so that might need a bit further work. Let's get a bit of wood and give it a go. Spent a bit of time trying to set it up, haven't quite got it right. But I'm getting a reasonable shaving. It's level, and that's a nice smooth surface. I do feel like it could be slightly better. Maybe I've got that a bit too deep. I'll back that out a tiny smidge. There you go. A nice level shaving. I know I do need a new bench, but I've got a problem. I haven't got room for one. There you go. That's worth setting it up right. Still, even now, could be slightly finer. Yeah, I think if I had a decent steady bench, that would help. I'm thinking about building one, but space is the problem. There's a guy called Rob Cosman, who I'm sure you've seen. He's got a little design for quite a small bench, which can be done cheaply. That might be the one to do. Okay, thanks very much for watching. So, me Veritas Honing guide. Is it worth it? Yes, I think it is. I know it's expensive. 60 quid is quite a lot to pay. A quid, by the way, is a pound to the American viewers. It's like a buck. So 60 bucks. Yeah, the quality of it's really good. It'll last a long time. Really like the little gauge because I was messing around with angles. You can never get them the same every single time, whereas with this you should be able to. The only downside, as I say, I think gripping the chisels not quite so good, as there is an adapter that you can put on there, which I presume has got a sort of channel that you can fit them in. So yeah, I think it's worth buying. All of these things, you need to spend as much money as you can. I went cheap. Where's my cheap stuff? Bought one of these, which you see loads of these on Amazon and eBay. I thought it would be okay, and it kind of was, but then when I really tried to get a good edge, it started to fail, and it's no good for chisels, or not thin ones, because it just can't keep it square. Yeah, so you still have to put in a bit of elbow grease, especially on the initial grind, to get it back to an actual angle that is acceptable. I mean, that one again is sharp. The bevel, the micro bevel's good, but the other bevel is a bit off, so I might have to redo that. But that's nice and sharp. I also found this one in my kit. I don't think it'll be able to grip that one because it's a bit too fine. But yeah, good fun, something to do with an evening. Better than watching EastEnders or X Factor or one of those things. Okay, thanks very much for watching. That's the end of the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.